AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after ruining her wedding dress. So, this is a pretty long story, and I've been turning it over in my head for weeks, trying to figure out if I'm really in the wrong here, or if my sister is just being unreasonable. I'm going to try and explain everything clearly, because there's a lot of backstory that's relevant. I, 29F, have a sister, Lisa, 32F. Growing up, we were close, but also had our fair share of sibling rivalry. Lisa is the perfect older sister type, successful career, beautiful, very organized, and always a bit of a perfectionist. I'm more laid back, creative, and a little messy. Our parents tend to favor Lisa, but they're supportive of both of us. Fast forward to Lisa's wedding planning earlier this year. Lisa got engaged last summer to her fiancé Mark. The wedding was scheduled for late spring. The whole family was involved, and I was the maid of honor. I was happy about it because I love my sister and wanted to help as much as I could. Here's where things started to get complicated. Lisa has always been extremely particular about her wedding. She chose a stunning, custom-made wedding dress from a local designer that she absolutely adored. She was meticulous about keeping it safe and clean, and we all understood it was off limits for anything but trying it on with the seamstress and a few fittings. About a month before the wedding, Lisa and Mark asked me to help with some last-minute wedding prep at their house. The day I went over, I noticed Lisa had left her dress hanging in the spare bedroom closet because it was supposed to be picked up by the bridal shop for final alterations. While I was there, I wanted to take some candid photos of Lisa's wedding decorations and a dress to surprise her with a photo album after the wedding. I asked if I could take some pictures of the dress hanging up, and she said yes, but reminded me not to touch it. Here's where the problem started. I saw a small stain on the bottom hem of the dress that looked like dirt or maybe makeup. Lisa hadn't noticed it yet. I panicked because I knew the dress was expensive and special, and I wanted to help. I asked if I could try to clean it myself since the dress wasn't going to be picked up until later, and she reluctantly said yes, but told me to be extremely careful. I took the dress out of the closet and carefully examined the stain. It looked like something that could be gently wiped away. I grabbed a damp cloth and dabbed it gently, but the stain didn't budge. I tried a tiny bit of stain remover I had in my purse, thinking it was safe since it was labeled delicate fabrics. That's when disaster struck. The stain remover reacted badly with the fabric, leaving a large, discolored patch that was clearly visible. I freaked out and tried to rinse it off immediately, but the damage was done. I called Lisa right away to confess what happened. She was devastated and screamed at me, saying I had ruined her dress. She insisted I had no right to touch it and that I should have left it alone. I apologized profusely and offered to pay for the dress to be replaced or repaired. The problem is, Lisa's dress was a one-of-a-kind custom design that couldn't be replicated. The bridal shop said they might be able to fix it, but it would take weeks and cost thousands of dollars. The wedding was less than a month away. Lisa went into full panic mode. She told me I was selfish and careless, and that I had ruined her dream wedding. She said I had to figure out a solution. I was overwhelmed and felt awful, so I started looking for alternative dresses or rental options, but Lisa was adamant that nothing else would do. Here's where my family and friends come in. Most of my family sided with Lisa. They said I had made a huge mistake and needed to make it right, no matter what. Some even suggested I pay for a completely new dress, even though it was impossible. My close friends, however, said that Lisa was being too harsh and that accidents happen. They told me it was a mistake, but that I was trying to fix it and had apologized. The real conflict came during a family dinner, where Lisa refused to speak to me directly, but made pointed comments about me ruining her wedding in front of everyone. I finally snapped and told her that I had taken responsibility and was trying to help, but that she needed to stop treating me like a villain. She told me to stay away from the wedding. At this point, the wedding is in 2 weeks, and Lisa is still furious. I feel like I've been punished enough, but my parents and the rest of the family keep pressuring me to apologize again and do more to make amends. I think I've done everything I can. So, AITA for refusing to apologize again and for trying to fix the situation instead of just backing down. Was I wrong to touch the dress at all, even with Lisa's permission? Did I handle this the wrong way? I really want to know where I stand here. Thanks for reading. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's past and causing a huge family rift? I, 29F, have always been close to my family, especially my sister, Emma, 31F. We grew up in a small town and were inseparable through childhood and most of our adult lives. Emma recently got engaged to a man named Jake, 33M, and honestly, I was thrilled for her at first. I wanted her to be happy, and I liked Jake when I met him initially. However, things took a turn after I dug deeper into his background. A bit of context, Emma and I come from a pretty tight-knit family with traditional values. We're not overly judgmental people, but we do care about each other deeply, and we expect honesty and respect in our relationships. Emma has always been someone who stood up for what she believed in, and I admired that about her. But I was shocked when I discovered some things about Jake that I couldn't ignore. It started when I overheard a conversation between Emma and my mom, where Emma mentioned that Jake had a rough past, but that he was different now. That phrase caught my attention. I started searching around, and what I found shook me. Jake has a criminal record, not a minor one. He was convicted of assault and battery involving his ex-girlfriend about 6 years ago. The details were disturbing. There was evidence he had physically hurt her, and he spent almost 2 years in jail. Emma never told me this. She told our parents only briefly and framed it as a mistake in his youth. But from what I found, this was not a youthful mistake. It was serious and violent. I tried to talk to Emma about it, carefully. I told her I was worried that this was something important she needed to be transparent about, especially because she was marrying him. She got defensive and said Jake had changed, that he had been going to therapy, and that the guy from 6 years ago was not the same person. She said I was being unfair and judgmental and that I needed to support her. I tried to listen and be supportive, but I also felt like Emma was ignoring the potential danger and the red flags. I asked if Jake was currently in therapy, if he had taken responsibility for his actions, or if he had any history of violence since then. Emma told me she believed in second chances and that Jake was genuinely remorseful. Still, I was uneasy, so I did something that maybe I shouldn't have. I spoke to one of Jake's exes, a woman who had dated him after the incident, but before Emma. She confirmed there were more red flags: jealousy, controlling behavior, and emotional abuse. She warned me that Jake hadn't really changed and that Emma was ignoring serious signs. I confronted Emma again with this information, and she got furious. She said I was meddling, trying to sabotage her happiness. She accused me of trying to control her life and her choices. Our conversation ended with her saying she didn't want me involved in the wedding planning anymore. The tension in the family escalated when Emma sent out the wedding invitations. I chose not to RSVP. I told her that I couldn't support the marriage because I was genuinely scared for her safety and mental well-being. I said I hoped she would be okay, but that I couldn't attend a celebration that ignored such serious issues. Our parents and other siblings were caught in the middle. Some said I was right to be cautious. Others accused me of being selfish and causing unnecessary drama. Emma cut me out of family chats, and my relationship with her has been completely fractured. A few weeks ago, the wedding happened without me. The photos and videos shared online showed a happy Emma, but I couldn't help but feel sadness and anger. I don't regret protecting myself and standing up for what I believe is right, but I also miss my sister and the closeness we once had. So, Reddit. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's violent past and the risks I believe she's ignoring? Or should I have just supported her choice no matter what? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after what she did to my kid? This is a long one, but I need to get it all out there to understand if I'm really the asshole here or if I'm justified in how I'm feeling. A bit of background. I'm 32F, and my sister, we'll call her Rachel, is 30F. We've always been close-ish growing up, but as adults, things have been a bit more complicated. I have a 5-year-old son, Jamie, who is the light of my life. Rachel has been single for most of her adult life, but about 2 years ago, she started dating a guy named Mark. I didn't like him from the start. He seemed controlling and dismissive, and frankly, a bit disrespectful to Rachel. I try to keep my opinions to myself, but Rachel would often vent to me about how difficult Mark was. Still, she stuck with him. Fast forward to earlier this year, Rachel got engaged. I was happy for her, even though I had my reservations. She announced the wedding would be in about 6 months, and I was excited to be a part of it. I was asked to be a bridesmaid, which was an honor, and I accepted without hesitation. Here's where things started to get messy. About 3 months before the wedding, Rachel and Mark decided they didn't want kids at the wedding. They wanted it to be a child-free event because they felt kids would be disruptive. I get that. Weddings can be overwhelming for little ones, but they made the decision very clear that there would be no exceptions. I tried to find a babysitter for Jamie, but as a single mom with a full-time job, it's not always easy or affordable. I explained this to Rachel, hoping she'd be understanding, but she was firm. She even said that bringing Jamie would be disrespectful to them and their day. It hurt, but I told her I'd try my best. About a month before the wedding, I found a trusted babysitter, so I was feeling better. Then came the invitation to the rehearsal dinner. This was an adults-only event as well, which made sense. 2 weeks before the wedding, Rachel called me and told me they decided that my son couldn't even attend the ceremony itself. It was a complete no. I told her this was unfair and asked if there was any way to make an exception, especially since I was going to be standing next to her during the ceremony as a bridesmaid. She was adamant. The line was drawn. I felt conflicted. I didn't want to miss my sister's wedding, but the idea of leaving Jamie behind just for the sake of this rule made me anxious and upset. I asked Rachel why she was being so harsh about this. She said she wanted to avoid drama and that Mark's family was strict about these things. The day before the wedding, I was at the babysitter's house when Rachel texted me saying that if Jamie showed up, she would ask me to leave immediately and that I would no longer be a bridesmaid. She said Mark had already expressed strong feelings about it, and she needed to support her fiancé. I felt crushed. I called Rachel, and we had a tense conversation. I told her how unfair it was to exclude my son and that I wouldn't be able to support her wedding under those conditions. She said I was being selfish and that I was making it all about Jamie instead of her big day. In the end, I told her I wouldn't be attending the wedding. I said I loved her, but couldn't be part of a day that rejected my child so blatantly. After that, the family exploded. My parents and other siblings called me and Rachel, tried to mediate. Rachel said I was being unreasonable and that I was embarrassing her. I told them I wasn't comfortable pretending everything was okay when my sister chose her fiancé over her nephew. Rachel blocked me on social media and hasn't spoken to me since. The wedding happened without me. I heard from mutual friends that Jamie's name was not mentioned once during the ceremony or reception, which stung deeply. I don't regret standing up for my son, but I'm torn because I miss my sister and the family is divided now. I also wonder if I overreacted by refusing to attend. Was I wrong for not putting Rachel's big day first? Am I the asshole for making this about my kid? Or was Rachel in the wrong for being so inflexible and prioritizing her fiancé's wishes over family? I'd love to hear some honest opinions. Thanks for reading. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she insulted my fiancé and then blaming me for ruining her big day. I, 32F, have always been close to my sister, Emma, 30F. Growing up, we were best friends, and even now, we talk often and share most of our lives. That being said, things got rocky over the past year when Emma got engaged to her now fiancé, Mark. I was happy for her, excited even. We all live in the same city, so naturally, when she started planning the wedding, I wanted to be involved and supportive. Emma and Mark have very different personalities. Mark is loud, opinionated, and sometimes comes off as abrasive, whereas Emma is more calm and reserved. I think they balance each other out, but there have been moments where Mark's bluntness rubbed me the wrong way. For example, during family dinners, Mark has made several offhand comments about my fiancé, Josh, 33M, that were unnecessarily critical. Josh and I have been together for 5 years. He's kind, patient, and a bit introverted, and I've never once heard him say a negative thing about anyone. I thought Emma and Mark would like him because he's easygoing and friendly. Unfortunately, Mark doesn't seem to think so. A few months ago, Emma asked if we could host the wedding at our house. We have a spacious backyard, and it seemed like a perfect spot, especially since our house is near the venue she initially wanted, which was more expensive and booked months in advance. I said yes without hesitation, wanting to help in any way I could. But then the drama started. One evening, when Emma and Mark came over to discuss the wedding details, Mark began to make some really snide remarks about Josh. He said Josh was too boring and not ambitious enough for Emma's sister. Emma just laughed nervously and told him to stop. But Mark kept going, saying Josh was a waste of space at family events because he never spoke up or took the lead. I was furious, but tried to keep calm. I asked Mark to leave the house, and Emma was visibly upset, but didn't defend me or Josh. Instead, she said Mark didn't mean it that way and that I was being too sensitive. I reminded her that this was my home, and I wouldn't tolerate disrespect toward my fiancé. Emma said I was making things difficult and that maybe I wasn't as supportive as she thought. From that night on, things got worse. Emma and Mark started making subtle digs at Josh whenever we met. Emma claimed she was just joking, but the comments felt hurtful and unnecessary. Meanwhile, I began to reconsider hosting the wedding at our house. The idea of Mark and Emma's attitude toward Josh and me made me uncomfortable. I told Emma I didn't think it was a good idea for us to host anymore. I explained that the house was our sanctuary and that I didn't want my fiancé or our friends feeling unwelcome or insulted on such an important day. Emma blew up. She accused me of being petty and selfish, saying I was ruining her big day over nothing. She even told me I was the problem in the family for not supporting her enough. The breaking point came when Emma sent me a group text with the whole family included, blaming me for forcing her to find a new venue last minute, calling me self-centered, and saying I couldn't put her happiness first. I was mortified and hurt because I had always tried to be there for her. I responded calmly, explaining my side and how Mark's behavior was unacceptable, but Emma didn't reply. The wedding went ahead last weekend, but not at our house. Emma chose a venue that was more expensive and less convenient for many family members. The wedding itself was beautiful, but it was clear the tension between us hadn't disappeared. Emma barely spoke to me all night, and when she did, it was cold and distant. Mark openly ignored Josh. Since then, Emma has avoided me. My parents think I'm partly to blame for the falling out, saying I should have put family first and bit my tongue. Josh and I are heartbroken because this all could have been avoided if Emma had set boundaries with Mark or supported us instead of alienating us. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to host Emma and Mark's wedding at my house after Mark insulted my fiancé, or should I have just swallowed my pride for the sake of family harmony? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house after what he did to my dog? This has been eating at me for weeks, and I really need some outside perspective because I feel like I'm being gaslit by my family, and I can't tell if I'm the asshole here or if I'm justified. I'm also kind of worried about how it's all going to blow up next time I see them. So a bit of background. I, 29F, live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city. I have a dog, Baxter, who's basically my best friend. He's a rescue, about 5 years old, super calm and well-behaved, and honestly the best dog I could have asked for. Baxter has anxiety issues and separation problems, so I put a lot of effort into making sure he feels safe and loved. My sister, Emily, 27F, lives about an hour away, and she's been dating this guy, Tom, 30M, for around a year now. Tom's always seemed like a bit of a wild card. He's charming when you first meet him, but I've heard stories from Emily about his past that make me uneasy. Emily and Tom recently got serious, and he started hanging around our family gatherings a lot. Anyway, last month, Emily asked if Tom could crash at my place for a couple of nights because he had some work stuff in my city and didn't want to pay for a hotel. Normally, I wouldn't have minded, but I had a bad feeling. I expressed my reservations to Emily, explaining that Baxter could be really sensitive to new people, especially ones who aren't used to dogs or don't treat him right. Emily brushed it off and said Tom loves dogs and he'd be fine. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The first night was okay. Tom seemed friendly enough and even offered to take Baxter for a walk. I left for work the next day, feeling cautiously optimistic. But then things went downhill fast. When I got home that evening, Baxter was nowhere to be found. I called his name, checked every room, the balcony, the closet. Yes, he likes to hide sometimes, but no luck. I started panicking. Then I noticed something strange. There were muddy paw prints leading to the back door, which was slightly ajar. I have a habit of always locking that door, so that immediately made me suspicious. I called Emily, asking if Tom had let Baxter out or taken him somewhere. Emily said she didn't know what I was talking about, and that Tom was at my apartment all evening. I kept searching the neighborhood, asking neighbors, and eventually one neighbor told me they saw a man walking a dog that looked like Baxter near a busy road about a mile from my place. I rushed out and found Baxter near the edge of a street, visibly shaken, dirty, and with a small cut on his leg. He must have escaped or been let out and almost got hit by a car. I was furious and terrified. The next day, I confronted Tom when he came over to pick up some of his things. He wasn't supposed to stay anymore after what happened. I asked him straight up if he let Baxter out or took him anywhere without telling me. He said yes, he took Baxter for a long walk to give him some exercise and fresh air, and that Baxter escaped when they were near the road, but he chased him down and brought him back. When I asked why he didn't tell me immediately, he shrugged and said it was no big deal and I was overreacting. I lost it. I told him how irresponsible and reckless that was, and that Baxter's safety was not a joke. I also mentioned that Baxter has anxiety and gets very stressed by sudden changes, especially being taken out by someone he doesn't know well. Tom looked annoyed and said I was being controlling. Emily got involved, defending Tom and saying I was making a mountain out of a molehill. She said she trusted Tom and that I should give him a break. Our parents also chimed in, suggesting I should be more welcoming and flexible since it was a favor. I refused to let Tom stay in my place again, which led to a big family argument. Emily accused me of ruining her relationship and not trusting her judgment. Our parents said I was being unreasonable and immature. I stayed firm because I genuinely felt unsafe having him around, especially after what happened. Since then, Emily has barely spoken to me, and family gatherings have become tense. I miss my sister, but I don't know how to reconcile this without compromising my dog's safety or my boundaries. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for kicking my sister's boyfriend out and refusing to let him stay again after he let my dog escape? Should I just let it go for the sake of family peace? Or am I right to prioritize Baxter's well-being and stand my ground? AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her newborn to my wedding, even though it's causing a huge family rift. This is going to be long because the situation is complicated and I want to be as clear as possible. I, 28F, am currently planning my wedding with my fiancé, Mark 30M. Our wedding date is set for 6 months from now. My younger sister, Emma, 24F, is expecting her first child and is due 2 weeks before our wedding. The problem started when Emma asked if she could bring her newborn to the wedding, and I said no. Here's some background. Emma has always been the wild child in the family. She's bright and talented, but tends to be impulsive and not very good at planning ahead. She got pregnant unexpectedly during her senior year of college. My parents, who are pretty traditional, have been worried but supportive. Emma is excited about the baby, but has been a little overwhelmed and disorganized. Mark and I decided early on that our wedding would be an adult-only event. We're both not big fans of kids, and the venue we booked doesn't have facilities for babies. We want our friends and family to be able to relax and enjoy themselves without worrying about children. We also hired a caterer and planner who are not equipped for childcare. When Emma told me she was pregnant, I congratulated her and told her we'd love to have her and her baby at the wedding. But then she said she wanted to bring a newborn. I gently explained that we didn't want babies at the wedding because of the venue's restrictions and because it would be too stressful for her to handle a newborn during the event. I also mentioned that it might be hard for her to be there with such a young baby. Emma got upset and said I was being unreasonable and selfish. She argued that she's my sister and that I should support her and her baby. She said the baby is part of the family and should be included. She even suggested that the baby could sleep in a bassinet during the ceremony and that she would manage the baby herself. She offered to pay for a nanny if we needed one. I told her the decision wasn't about money, but about what would make the day enjoyable and manageable for everyone. I also said that having a newborn at a loud, crowded event could be stressful for the baby and that it wouldn't be fair to her or to our guests. I suggested she come to the wedding and leave the baby with our parents or a trusted friend. Emma's not happy about that because she doesn't want to be separated from her baby so soon after giving birth. The conversation escalated quickly. Emma accused me of putting the wedding before family and being cold. She told our parents I was kicking her out and that I didn't want her or her baby there. Now our parents are mad at me and say I'm being unfair. They say I should make an exception just this once. Mark has tried to mediate, but Emma says he's biased because he doesn't like kids either. To be clear, I'm not opposed to children in general, just at this event. We've talked about having a casual family get-together a few weeks after the wedding where Emma can bring the baby and we can all celebrate together. Emma says that's not the same and that the wedding is the important family event where the baby belongs. Our extended family is now involved. Some support Emma, saying I'm being insensitive, and others back me, saying it's my day and I could set the rules. The tension has been affecting everyone. I feel guilty because I want Emma and her baby to be part of my life and milestones, but I also want the wedding to be exactly what Mark and I envisioned. AITA for refusing to let Emma bring her newborn to my wedding, even though it's causing a family rift? Should I just give in and let her bring the baby to keep the peace? Or am I justified in setting this boundary? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after what happened to my birthday party. This all started a few months ago, and I'm still reeling from the fallout. I, 29M, have always been pretty close with my sister, 27F. We grew up in a tight-knit family, and while we have our typical sibling squabbles, we generally get along well. She's getting married next month, and the way things have unfolded has made me seriously question whether I should even be involved anymore. For some context, I've been in a relationship with my girlfriend, Emma, 28F, for about 3 years. She's wonderful, and my family has always liked her. She's easygoing and tries hard to be part of the family, even though she lives a few states away. About a month ago, it was my birthday. I decided to have a casual get-together at my place with close friends and family. I'm not really a fan of big, elaborate parties, so I kept it small and simple. My sister was invited, obviously, along with her fiancé, Matt. My girlfriend was there too. The day of the party, everything seemed fine until the evening when a disagreement happened that blew up unexpectedly. It started when my sister commented on Emma's outfit. Emma was wearing a vintage dress she'd thrifted a few months ago. My sister's tone was kind of sarcastic, saying something like, "That's an interesting choice for a birthday party." It felt dismissive and unnecessary, but I shrugged it off at first, thinking maybe she was just trying to be funny. Later, while we were all sitting around, my sister kept making snide remarks about Emma's style and how she didn't really fit in with the family's vibe. I could tell Emma was getting uncomfortable, but she didn't want to make a scene. I finally stepped in and told my sister to knock it off. She rolled her eyes and said she was just joking, but it felt more like an attack. The real problem came when Matt started chiming in, agreeing with my sister and saying that Emma was too different and not really right for our family culture. At this point, Emma had had enough and quietly said she was going home. I followed her out, and we left together. The next day, I texted my sister asking why she and Matt behaved that way. Her response was cold and dismissive, basically blaming Emma for being too sensitive and saying I was overreacting. I was furious and hurt. I decided not to bring it up with the rest of the family immediately, hoping my sister would apologize or at least acknowledge what she said. But as the weeks went by, she not only didn't apologize, she started excluding Emma from family group chats and gatherings. She even told other relatives that Emma was difficult and caused tension at my birthday. Things escalated when I got invited to a wedding planning event at my sister's house. Emma wasn't invited, which I found really strange since the wedding was about family coming together. I asked my sister why Emma wasn't invited, and she said it was a family-only thing. That felt like a slap in the face since Emma has been part of my life for years. I confronted my parents about this, and they said they didn't want to get involved in sibling drama, but hinted that they thought Emma should try harder to fit in. I felt stuck between my sister's judgment and my parents' passive attitude. Last week, my sister sent me the official wedding invitation, which again did not include Emma. When I told her I wouldn't attend the wedding if Emma wasn't invited, she accused me of being selfish and trying to make her wedding about my girlfriend. She also said that if I wanted to be part of the family, I needed to choose sides. I'm heartbroken. This was my sister's big day, and I wanted to support her, but I can't just leave Emma out or pretend her feelings don't matter. Emma has been my rock through a lot, and I refuse to attend any event where she's being excluded because of my sister's personal biases. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she won't invite my girlfriend? Am I overreacting or being unreasonable? I feel like this should be about celebrating love and family, not tearing people apart. But at the same time, I don't want to lose my relationship with my sister. I just don't know what to do anymore. AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she completely disregarded my mental health and boundaries. This has been a difficult situation for me, and I really want to know if I'm the asshole here. I'll try to be as detailed as possible because there's a lot to unpack. I, 28F, have an older sister, Emily, 32F. Growing up, Emily and I were close, but as we got older, things became more complicated. She's always been the golden child in our family, popular, outgoing, and very high-achieving. I'm more introverted and have struggled with anxiety and depression for most of my adult life. Our parents have always favored Emily, which has created a lot of resentment on my part. Fast forward to now. Emily is getting married in about 6 months. Her fiancé is great, and honestly, I'm happy for her. But the problem is the wedding planning, specifically how much she's expecting me to be involved and the way she's handled it with zero consideration for my mental health. A little background on my situation. My anxiety is severe enough that I work from home most days and only attend social events when I feel prepared and safe. I have a small group of friends and a therapist I see regularly. Social anxiety makes me uncomfortable in large crowds or chaotic situations, and I get overwhelmed easily. I've told my family this multiple times, but Emily either forgets or doesn't care. When she got engaged, she immediately started roping me into wedding stuff. At first, it was small things like helping her pick out dresses or decorations. I thought I could manage because it felt like something I could do on my own time. But as things progressed, she started asking me to take on bigger responsibilities like coordinating vendors, helping plan the bachelorette party, and managing the seating chart. I told her outright that the stress and the constant communication were hurting my mental health. I asked her to slow down and let me opt out of some of the tasks, but she wouldn't listen. She said, "It's your sister's wedding. You have to help. You're being selfish." That really stung because I was trying to be honest about my limits. The breaking point came a few weeks ago when Emily asked me to organize the rehearsal dinner. This event is going to be huge, over 100 people, and she wanted me to handle all the RSVPs, catering options, and entertainment bookings. I tried to explain that this was too much for me and that I simply couldn't manage something that big given my anxiety. I even offered to help in smaller ways or just assist with a few minor details. She got really upset and told me, "You don't care about this family. You don't want to be part of my life. You're making this about your problems and not about me." Then she said she'd find someone else to do it and left the conversation. Since then, she's been cold and distant, barely speaking to me. My parents have also been involved, and they've taken her side. They keep telling me that I should push through for the sake of family, and that my mental health issues aren't a valid excuse to not help. This has made me feel isolated and guilty. I've tried to communicate my feelings calmly and clearly, but it feels like no one is listening. I'm worried about what will happen if I refuse to help with any more wedding plans. On the one hand, I don't want to make my sister's big day harder than it needs to be. On the other hand, I don't want to sacrifice my mental well-being or pretend everything is fine when it isn't. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to take on more responsibilities for my sister's wedding because of my mental health struggles? Or is Emily unreasonable for expecting me to put my well-being aside for her big day? I want to do what's right, but I also have limits. What should I do? Thanks for reading. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my autistic son. This has been a really tough situation for me, and I honestly can't tell if I'm in the wrong or if I'm justified. I'm hoping to get some perspective because I'm torn apart by how it's all unfolding. I, 37M, have a son, Jamie, who is 8 years old. Jamie is on the autism spectrum and has some sensory processing issues and social anxiety. He's a brilliant kid, but certain environments can be overwhelming for him. Over the years, my wife and I have worked hard to create accommodations for him and manage situations where his triggers might be set off, especially in social gatherings. My sister, Anna, 35F, has always been a bit difficult when it comes to Jamie. She means well, but she has zero patience or understanding when Jamie acts out or needs space. Anna is getting married next month, and this is where the problem really started. When Anna announced her engagement, I was genuinely happy for her. But from the start, she made it clear that her wedding would be a perfect day, and there was no room for disruptions. She expressed concern about Jamie being at the wedding because she feared he might cause a scene or make guests uncomfortable. I tried to explain Jamie's condition and what we usually do to help him cope. Quiet spaces, noise-canceling headphones, having a familiar person nearby, etc. She said she appreciated the info, but still was worried. The invitations went out a couple of months ago, and it came with a note stating the wedding would be an adults-only event. No kids allowed. I didn't expect Jamie to come to a big event like this, and honestly, I was fine with that. But the problem was that Anna made it clear to our family that Jamie's behavior was the reason she was excluding all kids. She said that having children there would be too unpredictable, and she wanted to avoid any embarrassment. It felt like she was indirectly blaming Jamie for this decision, even though other kids in the family are generally well-behaved. A few weeks later, I found out from my parents that Anna had told them that if I insisted on bringing Jamie, I would be unwelcome at the wedding altogether. This really hurt because it felt like she was punishing me for wanting to include my son. I thought about it, and I even reached out to Anna privately, trying to talk about how we could make accommodations so Jamie could attend without disrupting the event. I offered to keep him entertained in a quiet area or have a family friend watch him nearby if he got overwhelmed. Anna's response was cold and firm. The wedding is my day, and I don't want to deal with any special arrangements or disruptions. If Jamie can't behave like a normal kid, he can stay home. End of story. I was stunned. I felt like she was completely dismissing my son's needs and treating him like a problem instead of family. I decided not to attend the wedding as a form of protest. I told Anna I couldn't support a day where my son would be openly excluded and that I hoped she'd reconsider. Since then, our family has been split. Some relatives think I'm overreacting and should just let it go. Others support me and understand how painful this is. My wife is very upset too because she wanted to be there for Anna, but supports me standing up for Jamie. Anna has called me selfish and accused me of ruining her wedding. She says I'm being dramatic and that Jamie's needs shouldn't overshadow her big day. She also mentioned that if I don't come, I'm choosing my son over family. I'm feeling really isolated and unsure if I did the right thing. I love my sister, but I also have to protect my son and teach him that he deserves respect and inclusion. The way Anna has handled this feels cruel, and it's breaking my heart. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she excluded my autistic son and wouldn't make accommodations for him? Or should I just suck it up and attend despite how she treated Jamie? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé bring his dog to our wedding, which has caused a massive family feud. I, 28F, am currently in the middle of what feels like a never-ending family drama because of something I never thought would become such a huge issue. My sister, 32F, and her fiancé, 30M, are getting married next summer, and they asked me to be a bridesmaid. I was excited at first, but things have taken a weird turn that I honestly didn't see coming. A little background first. My sister, let's call her Emily, has been dating her fiancé, Dave, for about 3 years. Dave is great most of the time, friendly, funny, and generally easygoing. The one thing about Dave that's always been a bit tricky is his dog. A large rescue named Max. Max is a sweet dog, but has some anxiety issues and isn't great around crowds or kids. Dave has always treated Max like family, and honestly, it seems like Max is more important to him than some people in his life. Now, here's where the wedding drama starts. Emily and Dave want Max to be part of their wedding day. They want him to walk down the aisle with them or be in photos, basically to be included in the ceremony. I get that Max is important to them, but the problem is the venue they booked is a fancy, upscale, historic mansion with strict rules. No pets allowed inside for the ceremony or reception. It's also a bit of a long day with lots of people, and there will be small children running around. The venue is adamant about no exceptions because of insurance and liability reasons. When Emily and Dave first mentioned including Max, I said I didn't think it was a good idea because of the venue rules and the dog's anxiety, but they brushed it off. They said they could handle it and that Max is very well behaved. I offered to help find a nearby pet care service or someone to look after Max during the wedding, but they insisted Max had to be there. A few weeks ago, Emily asked me if I could help coordinate some of the ceremony logistics. I agreed, but during one of our planning sessions, Dave said they were going to push the venue about letting Max inside just for the ceremony, or maybe even sneak him in quietly. I told him that wasn't an option, that we couldn't risk it because if they got caught, the venue might cancel the event last minute, and it would be a disaster. I also reminded them about Max's anxiety and how a crowded, noisy wedding might be stressful for him. That's when things got tense. Emily got upset with me and said I was being unreasonable and unsupportive. Dave started saying I was overreacting and that I didn't understand how important Max was to them. They both started accusing me of trying to ruin their day over a dog, which hurt because I was only trying to help. The final straw came last weekend when they told me they were going to bring Max anyway, whether I liked it or not. They said if I didn't support this, they might reconsider having me as a bridesmaid. I told them I wouldn't participate if Max was there, mainly because I don't want to be part of something that's breaking venue rules and causing this much drama. I'm also worried about what might happen if Max gets scared or stressed and causes a scene. Since then, my parents have gotten involved, and it's become a big family argument. My mom says I'm being too harsh and should just let it go for Emily's sake. My dad is trying to mediate, but seems frustrated with everyone. Emily and Dave have stopped talking to me and say I'm selfish for not putting their happiness first. Other relatives have taken sides too, and it's become this whole thing where everyone's mad at me for standing my ground. I'm torn because I want my sister's wedding to be a beautiful, happy day for her and Dave, but I also want to be honest about my concerns and not support something that could backfire badly. I've offered compromises like having Max in photos outside or having a special video call with him during the ceremony, but they want him physically there. So, AITA for refusing to let Dave bring Max to the wedding and threatening to step down as a bridesmaid if they do? Or am I being unreasonable given how important this day is for my sister? AITA for refusing to let my sister's new boyfriend move in with us, even though he's just trying to get back on his feet. I'm 33M, the oldest sibling in my family, and currently live in a 3-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city. My sister, Sarah, 28F, has had a pretty rocky past few years, struggled with jobs, relationships, and personal issues, but she's generally a good person. About a month ago, she started dating this new guy, Mark, 30M, who she met at a local bar. Sarah told me he's been going through some rough times himself and is trying to turn his life around. Here's the thing. Sarah asked if Mark could move in with me and my girlfriend, Emily, 31F, because he doesn't have a place to stay right now. Apparently, he lost his apartment after some financial troubles. Sarah made it clear that Mark wouldn't be around forever, just until he gets back on his feet. I was hesitant, but I wanted to be supportive of Sarah, so I agreed after discussing it with Emily. At first, Mark stayed for about 2 weeks, and things seemed manageable. He was polite, tried to keep to himself, and was actively job hunting. However, after those initial weeks, a few issues started popping up. Mark began leaving his belongings all over the apartment, especially in the living room and kitchen. Dishes started piling up, even though Emily and I usually do them quickly. He often invited friends over without telling us, and they'd sometimes stay late, which was disruptive. He also smoked indoors, which we had explicitly asked him not to do because Emily has asthma. When I brought these concerns to Sarah, she brushed them off, saying Mark was just stressed and we should cut him some slack. I tried talking to Mark directly, but he got defensive and said he was doing his best under difficult circumstances. Things got tenser between all of us, especially when Emily started feeling uncomfortable and considering moving out if Mark didn't change his behavior. About 3 weeks ago, Mark told Sarah and me that he got a new job offer but wouldn't start for another month. He asked if he could stay longer to save up money for a deposit on a new place. I told him that while I understood his situation, this wasn't a permanent hotel, and we all needed to respect shared spaces and rules. I also said I'd reconsider letting him stay if things improved. Unfortunately, nothing changed. Mark's habits got worse. He stopped looking for jobs actively, seemed to be home all day playing video games or napping. He didn't help with chores, and sometimes he'd disappear for days without telling anyone where he was. Emily was at her wit's end, and our relationship started suffering because of the tension. One evening, after a particularly frustrating day where Mark left dirty dishes in the sink and invited a group over without notice, I sat down with Sarah and told her I didn't think Mark could stay with us any longer. Sarah got upset and accused me of being unsupportive and treating Mark unfairly because he was going through a hard time. She said I was being selfish and not a good brother. I tried explaining that it wasn't about Mark personally, but about respecting boundaries in our home environment. I told her that if Mark wanted to stay, he needed to contribute, respect the space, and show effort toward improving his situation. Sarah said I was overreacting and that I should trust her judgment. Last weekend, I gave Mark a final warning and said he needed to find somewhere else by the end of the month. Sarah was furious, called me cold and inconsiderate, and said if I forced Mark out, she'd have to reconsider how much time she spent with me and Emily. At this point, Emily is supporting me fully, and we're both feeling the strain from the situation. I don't want to lose my sister, but I also can't live in a situation that feels chaotic and disrespectful to our home and relationship. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in with us indefinitely despite his tough situation. AITA for refusing to let my sister move back into the house after she lost her job and ended up homeless. So this has been a huge source of tension in my family, and honestly, I'm still trying to figure out if I'm being unreasonable or not. Let me give you all the context first. I, 34 am, live in a 3-bedroom house that I own in a mid-sized city. I bought it about 5 years ago after getting a decent job and saving up enough to put a down payment on it. I live alone and have been pretty happy with my setup. I'm not married, no kids, and while I have friends and family who visit occasionally, it's mainly my personal space. My younger sister, Emma, 29F, has had a rough time over the last few years. She was working as a graphic designer for a small agency, but the company downsized, and she lost her job about 6 months ago. Since then, things have gone downhill fast. She wasn't able to find another full-time job quickly, and after some months of struggling, she ended up losing her apartment because she couldn't pay rent. She's been couch surfing at friends' places and occasionally staying at a shelter. Here's where things get complicated. A couple of weeks ago, Emma called me, very upset, and asked if she could move back in with me temporarily while she got back on her feet. I was caught off guard because we don't have a very close relationship. We're friendly, but not super close. She's always been a bit more free-spirited and less responsible, and I'm more structured and private. She's also known to be a bit messy and not great with money, which is why I hesitated. Anyway, I told her I needed to think about it. I talked to my parents about it, and they said I should help her because family is important. My mom even offered to help me cover some costs if I decided to take her in, but I still wasn't sure. I've always valued my independence and quiet space, and I wasn't sure if I could handle having someone else living with me, especially under stressful circumstances. Emma called again a few days later, desperate because she didn't have anywhere else to go. She said she was willing to pitch in with rent or chores. I agreed to meet her halfway. I said she could stay for 2 weeks as a trial to see how it would go, but I was firm that she needed to be actively looking for a job and contributing as much as possible. The first week was okay. Emma was respectful, helped out around the house a bit, and seemed to be making efforts to look for work. But in the second week, things started to fall apart. She was staying up late, leaving dishes unwashed, and when I asked her to keep the noise down because I work from home, she got defensive. Then she stopped sending me updates about job applications and basically started acting like she expected this to be permanent. I confronted her about it, telling her that if she wasn't going to take this seriously, she needed to start looking for other options. She accused me of not supporting her and said I was treating her like a guest instead of family. She said she felt unwelcome and that I didn't trust her. That's when I realized this was going to be harder than I thought. After some tense conversations, I told her she needed to find a place to stay elsewhere because I wasn't comfortable having her live here long-term under these conditions. Emma left the next day, but the drama didn't end there. I talked to my parents afterward, and they said I was being harsh and not showing enough compassion. They said families should stick together, especially in tough times, and that I was making Emma feel even worse by kicking her out. My friends are split. Some say I'm within my rights to set boundaries. Others think I should have been more understanding. Since then, Emma hasn't spoken to me much, and I feel guilty but also frustrated. I don't want to lose my sister, but I also don't want to compromise my own well-being or enable what I see as irresponsible behavior. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister move back into my house long-term after she lost her job and became homeless? Was I too harsh or just trying to set necessary boundaries? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she's treating my boyfriend? I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am, trying to figure out if I'm the asshole or if my sister is just completely unreasonable. This whole situation has been dragging on for months now, and I just can't take it anymore. A bit of background. I, 29F, have been with my boyfriend, Matt, 31M, for about 4 years. We live together, share a lot of our lives, and things are generally good. My sister, Amanda, 32F, is getting married in about a month. We've always had a somewhat rocky relationship. She's always been the golden child type, and I was kind of the forgotten middle child, so our dynamics are complicated but manageable. Amanda got engaged last year, and from the beginning, I was excited for her. I wanted help with the planning, be involved in the process, and support her. But things started going downhill when she began asking questions about Matt. Apparently, she had some preconceived notions about him, based on what I don't know, and started acting cold towards him. At first, it was small stuff. Not acknowledging him when we were all together, making snide remarks about his job. He works in tech, Amanda works in finance, and looks down on tech jobs as not real careers, and outright ignoring him when he tried to join conversations. I shrugged it off, thinking maybe wedding stress was getting to her. Then, about 6 months ago, Amanda asked me if Matt could not be a groomsman. I was surprised. He hadn't expected to be one, but I figured she just didn't want him in the spotlight. I agreed, thinking that's fair. But what I didn't expect was what happened next. Amanda started excluding Matt from all wedding-related events. No bachelor/bachelorette parties for him, no rehearsal dinners, no family photos with him, no seating at the main table at the reception. Every time I asked why, she gave me vague reasons like it's just how we want it or we have a limited budget. But I noticed that other people with similar jobs or backgrounds were included, so I knew it was personal. The breaking point came when Amanda openly told me that she didn't want Matt around because she didn't trust his intentions and thought he was only interested in our family's money. For context, our family is well off, but Matt is nowhere near a gold digger. He's hardworking, modest, and has never asked for or expected anything from my family. I confronted Amanda about this, and she basically said that Matt doesn't fit the image she wants for her wedding, and that if I wanted to be part of the day, I needed to handle Matt. I told her that wasn't fair or acceptable and that Matt deserved respect. I asked her if she wanted me to just show up alone without the person I'm building my life with. Since then, the tension has been unbearable. She started sending me passive-aggressive messages about how weddings are stressful and sometimes you have to make sacrifices for family. Matt, understandably hurt and frustrated, said he didn't want to come to the wedding if he was going to be treated that way. I supported his decision. Yesterday, Amanda sent me a final message demanding that either Matt attend and be treated like a guest or I don't come at all. She said that if I refuse, She'd consider it a personal betrayal and would cut me out of the family photos and events forever. I replied that I love my sister and want to support her, but I can't be part of an event where my partner is disrespected and excluded. So I told her I wouldn't attend the wedding if Matt wasn't welcome as an equal guest. Now, the family is divided. Some say I'm overreacting and should just go to keep the peace, while others say Amanda's being unfair and that I'm right to stand by Matt. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she's treating my boyfriend? Or is Amanda the real asshole for trying to exclude him and force me to choose between her and Matt? AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she blindsided me with a last-minute demand? This all started about 6 months ago when my sister, Emily, got engaged to her fiancé, Mark. I'm 32F, Emily is 28F, and we've always had a complicated relationship. More on that later. I'm generally very family-oriented, and when Emily announced her engagement, I was genuinely happy for her. We talked a bit about wedding plans, and I offered to help where I could. I'm in a stable job with some disposable income, and I know she and Mark are just starting out financially. Emily's wedding, from what she initially said, was going to be modest. She wanted something small, outdoors, maybe in a local park or a small venue, just close family and friends. I was excited to help her plan and even volunteer to help with the decorations and setup because I've always been into event planning and crafts. She seemed grateful at first. About a month ago, Emily dropped a bombshell. She called me out of the blue and said, "I've been thinking, and we want to have the wedding at our family's lake house. We want it to be a big deal, about 100 people, catered, fancy dresses, the works. And since you're so good with planning, we want you to organize everything." I was surprised, but didn't want to say no right away. I asked what kind of budget they had, and Emily said Mark's parents were helping out, and they'd cover the venue and catering costs. My job was just to coordinate everything, make sure vendors show up, manage the timeline, and basically act as the point person. She said it would be a huge favor since they didn't want to hire a professional coordinator. I hesitated. Organizing a 100-person wedding is a full-time job, and I wasn't sure I could do that without it interfering with my work. Also, the lake house is about 2 hours away from where I live. I brought this up, and Emily said she understood but emphasized how important it was for me to help. She said Mark's parents have been very clear that since I'm family, they expected me to step up. She also mentioned that the other bridesmaids weren't interested in taking on any planning duties. I felt pressured, but I agreed to at least start looking into things. As I dug deeper, I realized this was way more than I bargained for. I was expected to contact multiple vendors, coordinate deliveries, manage setup and teardown, deal with last-minute emergencies, and basically be on call for days. None of this was compensated or recognized beyond thanks and family favors. Meanwhile, Emily's attitude started shifting. She became increasingly demanding and critical. She expected me to drop my weekend plans, rearrange my work schedule, and basically be available at a moment's notice. When I brought up my work commitments, she accused me of not caring enough and being selfish. The final straw came 3 weeks ago. Emily called me, furious, because I hadn't confirmed the florist's contract yet. I told her I was waiting for them to send the invoice so I could verify details with Mark's parents. She snapped at me, saying that was unacceptable and that I was holding the wedding hostage. She then said, "If you can't handle this, maybe you shouldn't be involved at all." I decided to take a step back and told her that organizing the wedding was too much for me, especially given my work and personal commitments. I offered to help with smaller things like invitations or decorations, but said I couldn't be the main coordinator. I also suggested hiring a professional wedding planner, which would be more efficient and fair to everyone. Emily exploded. She accused me of abandoning her, being selfish, and ruining her big day. She said Mark's parents would never speak to me again and that our family would be disappointed. I felt terrible, but also overwhelmed and unfairly treated. Since then, I haven't spoken to Emily directly. My parents called me, asking me to make things right and support my sister. I told them I'm happy to help in reasonable ways, but I won't be responsible for a huge wedding at the last minute without proper compensation or acknowledgement. My friends say I'm right to set boundaries, but some say I'm being cold and unsupportive. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to be the wedding planner for my sister's large, last-minute wedding and standing my ground despite the family pressure? Or should I just suck it up and help organize everything to keep the peace? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my house after he caused chaos during a family trip? I, 29F, have always been the responsible one in my family. Growing up, I took on a lot of the organizing and planning whenever we did family trips or gatherings, mainly because my younger sister, Emily, 26F, has a very free-spirited personality. She's sweet, but can be a bit irresponsible sometimes, and I've learned to just take the reins so things don't fall apart. This past summer, we planned a week-long trip to a beach town about a 3-hour drive from where we live. It was meant to be a chill vacation with my parents, Emily, and her boyfriend Jake, 27M, who she's been dating for about 6 months. Jake is kind of a wild card. He's funny and charming, but also can be pretty reckless and impulsive. I had met him a few times before and didn't dislike him, but I wasn't super close with him either. Our plan was to rent a big house that could fit all of us comfortably. I found a nice place, booked it early, and made sure to get everyone's input on dates and arrangements. I was really excited because it had a pool, a hot tub, and was right on the beach. A few days before we left, Emily told me Jake wanted to bring his friend Ryan along. She said Ryan was a good guy and would only be staying for a couple of days. I told her the house only had enough bedrooms for the 6 of us and that it would be tight to add another person, but Emily insisted Ryan was well-behaved and it would be fine. I reluctantly agreed, but made it clear Ryan would have to sleep on an air mattress in the living room. The first 2 days of the trip were great. We went to the beach, had barbecues, and spent evenings playing board games. Jake seemed pretty low-key at first, but on the 3rd night, things started to go downhill. Jake and Ryan got a bit too drunk while we were out at a local bar and came back loud and rowdy. They were stomping around the house, knocking over chairs, and being generally disruptive. I asked them to quiet down, but Jake laughed it off, saying we were too uptight and needed to loosen up. The next morning, I woke up to find the kitchen in a mess, dirty dishes everywhere, spilled drinks on the counter, and a broken bottle of wine on the floor. Emily and Jake barely acknowledged it. I spent a couple of hours cleaning while everyone else was still asleep. Later that day, Jake decided it would be a great idea to throw a small party at the house, inviting people he'd met at the bar. Emily was hesitant but didn't say no. I was furious. I told them no one else was allowed over, and that the house rules clearly stated no parties or extra guests without permission. Jake blew up, saying I was ruining everyone's fun and that Emily's trip should be about having a good time, not policing the group. Emily got caught in the middle, but eventually sided with me, realizing Jake was being disrespectful. The party got canceled, but the tension was thick. Then, on the 5th day, things escalated. Jake and Ryan decided to go jet skiing without any safety precautions. They ignored the rental company's instructions and ended up crashing into a buoy, damaging the equipment. The rental company demanded we pay for the damages immediately. We didn't have money on hand, so they wouldn't let us take the jet skis back. Jake didn't take any responsibility and kept blaming Ryan, who was scared and just went along with what Jake wanted. Emily was stressed out and begged me to help resolve the situation. I ended up calling my credit card company and used my car to cover the costs because I didn't want the trip to be ruined for everyone. That night, Jake got angry at me for interfering and accused me of making everything worse. Emily defended me, and they got into a heated argument. Jake stormed out and said he was going home early. I thought that would be the end of it, but the next morning Jake showed up at our rental house uninvited with a bag, saying he was still staying the rest of the trip. I told him he wasn't welcome and needed to leave because his behavior was causing too much stress and problems for everyone. Jake refused and started yelling at me, claiming I was being unreasonable and controlling. Emily got upset and tried to mediate, but I stood my ground. I said I would call the police if he didn't leave. Eventually, Jake left, but the atmosphere for the last couple of days was tense and uncomfortable. Emily was upset, but said she understood why I did what I did. When we got home, Emily thanked me for trying to keep the trip together, but said she felt torn between me and Jake. A few days later, she texted me saying Jake had broken up with her, blaming me for the fallout and saying I was a control freak, ruining her relationships. My parents have taken my side, saying I was just trying to keep the trip sane and safe, but Emily is upset and hasn't really spoken to me since. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at our vacation house after he caused chaos and ignored the house rules. Was I too harsh, or should I have been more lenient for the sake of family peace? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my partner and me throughout the planning process. This has been a mess, and I honestly still don't know if I'm the jerk here or if my sister crossed a line so badly that I'm justified in my reaction. I'm hoping to get some perspective because family drama is messy, and I'm caught in the middle of it. I, 28F, have a younger sister, 26F, who is getting married in about 2 months. For context, my partner, Sam, 30M, and I have been together for 5 years. We live together and have always been pretty close with my family, including my sister. We're not super involved in their lives daily, but we visit often, celebrate holidays, and get along well overall. When my sister got engaged about a year ago, she was ecstatic and started planning her wedding immediately. I was genuinely happy for her. The problem started early on with how she involved, or more accurately, didn't involve, me and Sam in the planning. My sister decided she wanted a fairly small wedding with close family and a few friends, which is fine. But from the beginning, she excluded Sam from the process in a way that felt intentional. She never asked for his opinion on anything, never invited him to any of the dress or venue appointments, and she frequently referred to him in a dismissive tone whenever we talked about wedding stuff. It wasn't overt, but it was enough to be noticeable and hurtful. I brushed it off initially because I thought maybe she just wanted to handle things with my parents and her fiancé. It started escalating when she asked me to be her maid of honor. I was happy to do it because, again, I love my sister and wanted to support her. But when I told her that Sam wouldn't be attending the bridal shower or bachelorette party because he works weekends, she rolled her eyes and said, "Well, maybe he should make time." It was a small comment, but set the tone for what followed. The bridal shower was held at my parents' house, and Sam was told he wasn't invited. When I asked my sister why, she said it was a girls-only event, which I get, but then she followed it up by saying he wouldn't fit in anyway. That stung, but I didn't push too hard because I didn't want to cause drama. Things got worse as the wedding date approached. My sister and her fiancé asked for a list of guests for me, but they refused to add Sam's close friends or family members, despite knowing we were close with them. I tried to argue that it felt unfair to exclude people we consider important, but they said it was a budget issue and they had to keep it small. When it came time to plan the seating arrangement, my sister told me flat out that Sam wouldn't be sitting with my family, despite my requests. She said, "It's not your wedding, it's mine. He can sit with his own people," which was weird because Sam doesn't have much family nearby, and it felt like she was trying to isolate him. I confronted her about it, telling her it felt like she was deliberately trying to alienate Sam and me, and she got defensive. She accused me of being overly sensitive and said that Sam was too serious and didn't fit the vibe she wanted for her big day. She even went as far as saying, "If you want to come, you come alone." At this point, I felt really hurt and unwelcome. I tried to talk it out with my parents, who were neutral and said they didn't want to get involved. I talked to Sam, and we both agreed it wasn't worth a huge fight, but I also didn't want to be treated like a guest without my partner. Fast forward to a week ago, and I told my sister I wouldn't attend the wedding unless Sam was invited and included equally. She flipped out, saying I was being dramatic and trying to ruin her day. She said if Sam came, she wouldn't want me there. It's been radio silence since. My parents are disappointed in me for not supporting my sister, but honestly, I feel like I'm standing up for myself and Sam. I don't want to attend an event where we're not truly welcome. At the same time, I'm worried I might be overreacting and causing unnecessary family tension. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she has treated Sam and me throughout the process? Or should I just suck it up and go for the sake of family peace? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.